You wake up, and nothing is technically wrong, but your body feels heavy, your mind foggy, your patience thinner than usual, and you can't explain why a conversation from yesterday is still echoing inside you. What if that lingering weight isn't weakness or overthinking, but your nervous system asking for recovery? Imagine this. Last night was intense. An argument, a deadline, a confrontation you didn't expect, or maybe just too many demands stacked too close together. And now the next day arrives quietly, yet you feel off, not sad exactly, not anxious in the usual way, just drained and irritable, like your emotional battery didn't recharge overnight. And this is where our story begins, in that soft, confusing morning space where you wonder why stress seems to last longer than the event itself. Here's what you'll gain by staying with me through this story. You'll learn what an emotional hangover really is, what's happening in your brain after stress ends, why your body keeps the score even when your mind wants to move on, and most importantly, how to recover without shaming yourself or forcing positivity, because understanding the mind-brain connection changes how you treat yourself after hard moments. The conflict driving this story is simple yet powerful. We expect stress to end when the situation ends, but the brain doesn't work that way. When we don't understand this, we blame ourselves for reactions that are actually biological. Picture a woman sitting in her car after a long day, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel, not crying, not thinking clearly, just staring, because her body hasn't caught up with the fact that the day is over, and that pause, often misunderstood, is the nervous system still unwinding. Here's the psychology behind it, and this is where science gently enters the room. When you experience stress, especially emotional or interpersonal stress, your brain activates survival circuits involving the amygdala, hypothalamus, and brainstem, releasing cortisol and adrenaline to help you cope in the moment. But those chemicals don't instantly disappear when the stressor ends, they taper off gradually. And during that tapering, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for clarity, patience, and emotional regulation, remains partially offline, which is why you might feel foggy, reactive, or unmotivated the next day. This is the emotional hangover. Not a disorder, not a flaw, but a temporary neurochemical aftereffect of stress, similar to muscle soreness after physical exertion, and just like physical soreness, it requires recovery, not criticism. Now let the story deepen, because emotional hangovers aren't just about one bad day, they accumulate, and when stress becomes chronic, work pressure, relationship tension, unresolved grief, your brain adapts by staying on higher alert, and over time, your baseline shifts, meaning you wake up already tired, already braced, already carrying yesterday into today. What's fascinating and often comforting is that research in effective neuroscience shows emotions are not just feelings floating in the mind. They are whole body states involving hormones, immune responses, and neural networks, which means recovery must also be whole body, not just positive thinking. Think of the last time you told yourself, "I should be over this by now." And notice how that thought didn't help, because shame adds a second layer of stress, activating the same circuits you're trying to calm, turning recovery into resistance. Here's the dramatic turn in the story, the moment that reframes everything. The brain doesn't heal stress through force, it heals through signals of safety, and safety is communicated not by logic alone, but by consistent, gentle cues. Slow breathing, predictable routines, self-compassionate language, and rest that isn't earned but allowed. Neuroscience shows that slow, controlled breathing activates the vagus nerve, shifting the nervous system from sympathetic fight or flight into parasympathetic rest and digest. And this shift is what allows cortisol levels to normalize and the prefrontal cortex to come back online, which is why something as simple as a quiet walk, a warm shower, or a calm voice can feel surprisingly powerful after stress. Another insight many people miss is memory reconsolidation. When you replay a stressful event over and over, your brain isn't just remembering it, it's re-encoding it, strengthening the emotional charge, which is why emotional hangovers can last longer when we mentally rehearse what went wrong, and why grounding in the present, naming what you see, hear, and feel right now, helps interrupt that loop. This is where self-awareness awakens, because once you recognize an emotional hangover, you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What does my nervous system need right now?" And that question alone changes behavior. Recovery might look like lowering expectations for a day, choosing softer conversations, nourishing your body, or permitting yourself to feel neutral instead of joyful, because neutrality is often the bridge back to balance. There's a quiet empowerment here. Emotional regulation isn't about controlling feelings, it's about creating conditions where feelings can pass, And when you understand the brain, you stop fighting yourself and start collaborating with your biology. As the story resolves, imagine that same person from the car earlier, now at home, lights dim, phone down, breathing slower, not fixed, but settling, because healing doesn't announce itself loudly. It happens in subtle shifts. Shoulders dropping, thoughts slowing, a little more patience returning. And here's the takeaway that ties it all together. Emotional hangovers are evidence that you cared, that you exerted effort, that your brain did its job to protect you, and recovery is not indulgence, it's maintenance. If this story resonated, stay with this channel because understanding your mind-brain connection is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. And here we keep translating neuroscience into practical calm, one insight at a time, so subscribe, return, and give your nervous system the education and compassion it deserves.